Thanks for having us.
We could start to my right. Let us know your name and.
Carol Ann Trotman. I'm a licensed professional counselor, licensed clinical professional counselor. I'm in Maryland, and I'm with the Relationship Boosters.
Yes, so I'm Dr. Kia, and I'm a licensed therapist, and I have a doctorate in counseling psychology, and I'm with the Relationship Boosters as well.
My name is Monika Ward, and I am a licensed therapist, and I'm also with the Relationship Boosters.
What made you all come together to start Relationship Boosters?
Well, I would say that all of us were talking about the fact that we were seeing a lot of people who have relationship issues.
Okay.
And we used to say relationship counseling for one. And then they would bring in their significant other and we're like, what are we going to do? Like we keep running into this couples thing. And so we just continued to get training and decided to come together and make it a cause.
Because most people say that you should not go into business with family and friends. What would you say to that?
I used to believe that because this is going on my third business, because I've had a counseling practice before. We all have our own private practices as well as the relationship practices. Okay. So just, hearing a lot of horror stories throughout the years about people who have gone into business with their family, just people bring their personalities into their business, and sometimes that gets mixed up in a lot of the financial pieces of business and all of the day-to-day of the business, and then you take that home with you, and then you're fighting and arguing with your relatives, and so it's just a lot of drama. But we're pretty, we knew each other prior to, coming into business together. I've known Kia a lot longer than Carol Ann, but we are pretty good with each other. We are able to communicate, and I think there's a level of respect that has to be there in order to, balance friendship and business. So I think it can be done. The communication has to be really good.
Like in a relationship.
Right.
Exactly.
People say that going into business together is like a marriage, and I totally disagree with that. But that's another talk show.
One of the things that I see in a lot of the relationships that I observe is they go too far before deciding to make the commitment. They've moved in together, they bought cars together, in some cases they bought homes together. And then they realize, oh, we don't get along or we have a problem. Where would you start with a couple like that?
Well, we have to do a rewind, because do you even know each other first? Yeah, one of the first things that we help people do is kind of like get to know each other a little bit better so that you have a stronger foundation. So if you skip all those steps and you move in together, sometimes people have the assumption that you're moving towards marriage and one person is not moving towards marriage and the other person is really thinking that this is where it was going. So you really do have to understand what's going on and not skip those steps, because that's like cracks in the foundation of your relationship.
Yeah, so you really have to go back to just knowing each person and knowing each other's world, and it's going back to basics with each person, because I find that people come together and they do those things, and then they realize, I didn't realize that this was your trait, and I've known you for how long? I didn't realize you had this expectation, and I've known you for how long? So yeah, it's going back to basics and just talking about dating stuff all over again.
What is the contribution to the divorce rate going higher and higher and higher?
Well, in my opinion, it's people look at it as if you get married, it's an easy way out, and I think that just in general, just in society, everything is moving at a fast pace where people, we talk a lot about just online how we see people cutting each other off. So if you get tired of somebody, you're just going to unfriend them. And I think that that's also something that people bring into relationships. Like if it just gets too uncomfortable, I'm just going to distance myself from you or cut you off. And so I don't think that's any different with marriage. People get uncomfortable, the road gets rough, and they're just like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. Like, A lot of people get into the situation and then they want to bail out because they don't know what to do. And they don't realize that there's a lot of things that are going on within them that contribute to that problem.
Okay.
And then if they leave this relationship and they take those same traits with somebody else, they duplicate the same things over and over again. So we do help people to see that, you know, that some of this that's happening in the relationship is due to some of the things that you're bringing. So really helping them to understand that, I think, helps. I will say the divorce rate has plateaued a little bit. They've been talking about, you know, it's not increasing anymore. So, I mean, that's a positive thing. But the fact that people don't know each other, the fact that people are running from themselves, you know, contributes to divorce and separation.
I would say the other part of that is going in with a very idealistic view of what marriage is supposed to be, or is going to be, or is going to be, and it is not. All those movies kind of set it up. Hollywood sets it up in such a way where either things are really rose-colored or things are really awful, and they don't actually just pay attention to what do they want in their own relationship and what should it look like for them, what works well for them. And focusing on that and talking about the expectations, because you go in with expectations, everybody does, but really discussing that so you can see how that can play out with each other. It might not look like your parents, it might not look like your grandparents, and that's okay.
Right, because we can be in a relationship or even be married and he can have his house and I can have mine.
Y'all gonna have a conversation.
Why? What's wrong with that?
I guess you can have that if that's what you guys discussed. There are people that do long distance relationships all the time, long distance marriages even. I've heard of a few people here that if their job is one place and the other, so if somebody's job is in DC and another person's job is in Annapolis, they might spend most of the week in two different houses, but be sure that they have carved out time and made time to be together.
One week in a month.
If that is what works for you guys, then that's the marriage that works for you guys. Most of the time, though, that is not going to be enough.
So
something is going to change.
What are some of the ways that you help people boost their relationship? Interesting name, by the way. What's the story behind the name?
Well, we were when we first started 2 or 3 years ago, long ago. We we spent a lot of time thinking about what would a good name be, like a catchy name, and we thought about how when we work with people, you know, as therapists, we are helping to, you know, provide them treatment, you know, for whatever's ailing them, and so with couples, it's no different. And so when you think about doctors, they're helping people, like, you know, boost their energy or boost their health, whether they're prescribing medication or talking to them. So we look at what we do as, you know, a boost. We're giving them advice, we're giving them suggestions to help them be healthier in their relationships, to help their relationships, you know, grow and be healthy.
Okay, so let's run through some of the top ways that people can boost their relationships.
I would say definitely make sure that you guys are spending time together as a couple, because there are going to be things that are going to come up as distractions: work, children.
Well, look, I'm busy. I have things to do. I'm running my own television show. I have a full-time job. I have hobbies that I'm interested in.
Yep.
He needs to find some hobbies. I'm working 12-hour days.
Okay. So all you need is 5 hours a week to really keep your relationship solid and strong. And we talk to our couples about that. We teach them how to do that. We help them to build that into their busy schedules. And so, yeah, so 5 hours in the week. We're not even talking about per day. So, yes.
What happens during those 5 hours?
Look at you diving in.
I actually have to talk to him.
Yes, yes, you have to talk to him.
I have to look him in his eyes.
You have to talk to him. You have to date him. You have to show affection.
We dated before we got married. And all
And
that
you
dating
will-
stuff is over. Why do
will
I have to date
continue.
him now?
Because that is part of a strong relationship. So you will continue to date. That should not.
She didn't ask, y'all. Did you see? She actually said,
You will continue.
you will
to date.
continue to date.
If what you're looking for is a long-lasting, healthy relationship, because dating is play. As in, you don't just play when you're kids. You play when you're grown and you're an adult as well. You find playtime for yourself, and you find playtime for the couple. So that's what dating is. So that should keep going.
It is really about making the relationship a priority. And I know, I hear you, like you have your life, you have your TV show, and you have your dreams, your goals, and that's important in a relationship to be able to still satisfy that piece of you, that independence, that the thing that keeps you going.
Okay.
But the relationship definitely is a priority. It has to be, every day you have to make sure you're paying attention and being aware and making it the number one.
Right, because when you go on vacation and you're relaxing, you don't want to be like, well, who is this person I'm sitting next to? And I don't even know what to say to this person. Because that feels bad, right? When you're sitting in a spot with somebody who you're supposed to be connected to and then you feel lonely, that gets ugly. And people see that after their kids leave, because it's like we've centered our lives around our kids and their activities and, our busy stuff. And then the kids leave and they're looking at each other like, okay, who are you again? And what?
Now
That
what?
whole Absolutely.
So we need to avoid that so that when you do have that time, it's like, yes, we get to have fun and play together. Yes, we're going to have fun together, like all of that. So it's almost like shifting so that you make sure that you make time for each other and you feel that love and connection that essentially was there when you got together.
Okay. Now, give me another one. What is another way, technique, or tip that people can use to boost their relationships with their intimate partners?
Be careful about the things that you say out of your mouth. So, and what I will say is, people say they want to say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it, but they don't
I'm
want.
just keeping it real.
Right,
Right.
But the thing is when somebody keeps it real with you, how do you feel about that? What is the goal? If the goal is to have a healthy relationship and to actually problem solve, then you probably shouldn't, criticize your significant other and tell them how dumb they are, right? As opposed to actually asking or telling them what it is that you need from them. Because if you tell them those negative things, then y'all gonna have a whole conversation about this negative thing, right? So, you tell them that, okay, you should have said this, and they're like, well, why are you criticizing me, right? Now we're talking about the fact that you criticize them as opposed to helping with the dishes or making sure they lock the door or whatever else. So it derails the conversation.
Something about him or her that the spouse learns after the vows, how should they address that?
Meaning something that they are uncomfortable about. I mean, it's going to start with a conversation. It's going to start with bringing up, hey, I wasn't aware of this. Can I find out more about it? Because you need to know the background of that story and not necessarily make an assumption about what happens or whatever the situation is.
So they shouldn't just yell from the bathroom. Didn't I tell you put that toilet seat down? That's not how we handle it.
Not unless they want to be yelled at too, right?
That's not how we handle it. Okay.
So you might want to say, hey, can you please put the toilet seat down after you go to the bathroom because, I don't want to fall in. Right?
Or, to Carol Ann's point, what if one wants to communicate to the other, I don't think I'm getting enough quality time?
Be open about it and say, hey, I really enjoy spending time with you. I want more. So what can we do to make sure that we get this
You want these bills paid, right?
Of course we want those bills paid, but we also want to be connected and feel good in our relationship and have great sex and have great communication. So we need to make sure that we spend time together in order to get that.
Well, you knew when you married me that I didn't have a lot of time.
That's true. But we also want to make sure that we get together and have an awesome relationship, right?
Of course you agree. Of course.
It makes sense. It makes sense, definitely.
So why shouldn't couples yell back and forth at each other?
Because it becomes toxic, and it becomes, you lose sight of what the issue is. Like, Dr. Kia was saying, it may start off with, a conversation, or, you're upset about the toilet seat being up. Then it turns into, well, you always leave toothpaste in the sink. And then it leads to, well, why are you always leaving dishes in the sink? And so you get so far away from the issue, and you're at that point when you're yelling at each other, it feels like an attack. And it's just a buildup of just, all these attacks, and you're not really addressing the issue. And I don't like to work hard, so I think that what we're all kind of saying is, when you address a situation effectively in the beginning from the jump start, there's less work that goes into trying to get back to, okay, this is the issue that we need to deal with, because then you got to work through, well, you just called me a B, or whatever else came in when you were yelling at each other, and you're going to have to go back and do all that work over again, and then get to the point of the whole conversation.
Right, that's a lot more work than just having a straightforward conversation. Now we got to have 3 or 4 conversations before we can even get back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think you tell your mother totally too much information.
That's real.
That might be what happens in that house. But really, it's like, hey, talk about what you're feeling behind him telling that information to his mom, or being so open with his mom about your business, right? Talk about that, and then tell him what it is that you would like to see happen. When you just leave it out there, it makes people want to be on the defensive. So what you want me to do? That's my mom. Like, I knew her before I knew you. Right? So it turns into,
my mom's gonna always be my first love.
Right, so it turns into those conversations. It's really setting up the conversation so that your partner knows that you guys are on the same team. Even if you have something that you're bringing up and it might seem like a negative, ultimately it's for the benefit of both of you, and it's for the benefit of the relationship. And you have their best interest at heart too, and he doesn't want you walking around sour all the time. So, hey, how can we work on this?
So we have quality time. We have don't criticize, and
being effective, so you don't have to work so hard. So knowing how to start the conversation so that it doesn't feel like an attack, and that you can stay on the goal of the subject of the issue.
Okay. So he walks in the door, and I say, we need to talk.
Oh, that's the trigger. That's the whole trigger phrase.
What's wrong with that one?
Those are the words. Those are the fighting words. That's like the Mortal Kombat music comes on.
We need to talk.
They don't ever think anything is coming positive with
What's
that.
wrong with that one?
It's a setup, and they know it. The attitude, the tone, and those words, they usually feel like there's nothing positive coming after that.
Unless you've changed it up and you say that every time you have something positive to say. But generally speaking, that's the setup for we're about to have a bad conversation.
Of course you agree. Have you all professionally ever been in the situation where you told a couple you felt like they would be better apart?
So here's the thing. The answer to that is no, but let me tell you. Because there's situations where I've worked with people and been like, you know what? I don't know if they're compatible, but I do my work and they are in a great space. Okay. So it's not really up to me to say that they are not going to be able to work together. It's, are they willing to do the work?
Okay, well, she said she hot. She got the fire for you. If you want your relationship fixed, you need to see the job over here.
What was the question?
Have you ever professionally been in a situation where you told a couple they would be better apart?
I haven't had to tell them that, because ultimately when someone comes in to meet with me for couples counseling, I let them know initially that this is for us to work through your relationship so you stay together. My training is really about how to keep you together. If there are things that come out, in the session where there's abuse or things that we can't really address together, in the couples counseling, then I'll recommend individual counseling. You know, I'll recommend, okay, we need to halt this, and there has to be some individual work that needs to take place, because you know there are situations where couples counseling is just not going to be effective.
Right. I would actually say that no, I haven't told anybody that, any couple that. But I have let them know that if you're coming in and you're not willing to do the work, then it's just not going to work. Both of you have to put in more effort than me in order for the whole process to work. I will speak to Monica's point, which is abuse is one of those things where it is a no-no in session. So for that, we would probably say, we're going to have to do something different and really take care of the person that is being abused, because the things that come out in session can put them in a dangerous situation at home.
How would the relationship boosters help a couple work through one of the couples cheating? And cheating, period. Because this thing where they push it back and forth, well, it was just emotional, or, oh, you know, we just exchanged a couple of texts, or I just bought her a car. I didn't sleep. Cheating is cheating.
Sometimes you have to get to that, you know, have that conversation, and some people do come in and they have already identified that cheating occurred, and so the person who cheated admits that they cheated. The other person is in their whatever phase they're in terms of, you know, their grief that goes on when you are cheated on. But then there's other times where couples come in and one partner says that the other person's cheating and the other person doesn't acknowledge that or see what they did as cheating. So I think the first step is definitely to get down to the bottom of, okay, what are you all seeing is the issue? How are you all looking at cheating? You know, and has there been some acknowledgement that that's exactly what, you know, happened?
As professionals, well, hold on. Before I ask that question.
Yeah.
Oh, how do you deal with cheating relationship? So yeah, it really comes down to being as transparent as possible. So it's going to start off with, once it's acknowledged, it's going to start off with a sincere kind of apology and atonement period, and recognize that this is, your relationship is going to feel like it's in crisis.
Well, that happened 6 months ago. She need to get over that.
And we do hear that. And no, that's not how it goes. Ultimately, your behavior is a betrayal to her. So if you would like to have a good relationship moving forward, number one, the old relationship is over. Not just the relationship with the other person, the extraneous partner, but the old relationship that you guys had is over, because now you have to start fresh and create what this new relationship is going to look like in the future, because we have to avoid this happening again. So there's steps to it, but basically it's going to be a conversation. There's going to need to be transparency. There's going to be new boundaries that will happen, and both people have to be on board, especially the person that was the perpetrator. You're going to have to be on board if this is what you're trying to do, which is save your relationship.
Dr. K?
Right, and you know, just to even piggyback off of that, then you got to delve deeper and figure out what happened that contributed to the cheating in the first place. Because sometimes it might be things that unfolded in the relationship. Sometimes it could be that cheaters, their history and things that they have done in their past that they've never worked on. So it really is about getting to the bottom of that. Like after they've gotten past, you know, the part of really recognizing that they have to terminate the old relationship and, you know, healing and understanding, like, you know, each other, then you have to go back into why did this happen and how can we make sure that this never happens again. And to your point, you know, people do want to move on because they don't like feeling bad, because now, you know, I feel like a bad person because I'm the identified cheater, but that was a decision that you made. And so therefore these are the consequences of that. And so you have to work through that, you know, and it's a process. It definitely isn't overnight.
It's a process. How long, on average, have you seen that process take? Because forgiveness can be very difficult.
Forgiveness, yes.
When one of the partners, intimate partners, has cheated.
Right. Well, getting over any type of betrayal can be well, the whole act can be traumatic anyway. So you don't ask somebody that's gone through a trauma to hurry up and get over it or put a time limit on it. So we're not going to be able to say a definitive time. We can see that as long as people are really having a conversation about it, it kind of, it stops them from being in their head about the situation. So when you know that you can talk to your partner about what has gone on and go and heal from it. If you feel like you can't talk to your partner or even have a conversation anywhere with them about what has happened, then that keeps things going deeper. It causes assumptions. It has you thinking back to why they did what they did. How were they with this person? How come I didn't get that attention, but that person got it? It builds up. So really, it's about how much work you're willing to put in as close to the time of the trauma, right? The betrayal, as close to the time of that, and have a conversation about it.
Now, back when I was counseling young adults, we can say juveniles, 16 to 25. 2 of my juveniles got married. Now, their individual counseling wasn't going well. So now how do you think the marriage went? The most difficult part was the immaturity. Now, they were under 25. Do you see immaturity as an issue in the older adults that you had seen in your counseling practices?
As far as immaturity for the older adults?
The real you and the way that you cope with stuff shows up in a relationship. You thought that you would be able to get away from it. You thought that you were mature. You've had all these years of experience, and still your go-to response for if somebody says something to you that you don't like is to stomp away and slam a door like you were 5, right? So it doesn't matter really how old you are, how many years you've had dealing with people, or it's gonna show up. Sometimes your go-to inner kid comes out in a relationship because that person really knows you. They're getting to see you in your rawest state, and that vulnerability.
Somebody that you never get rid of. They at the house 24/7. They got a kid come and go as they please. You can't send them home.
It's no taking a break. Someone asked me the other day, married, but have you ever heard of anyone taking a break? And what would that look like in your marriage? And I was like, it's not that you're not dating. You can't just go to your house and, he go to his house and it's like, okay, we'll just take a break for a month or so.
I'll see you in 6 months.
No, y'all have a house together. Y'all have kids.
No.
So.
If anybody wants to get in contact to get their relationship boosted, how would they reach out to you all?
You can find us on our website at The Relationship Boosters. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. On Instagram, we're relationship_boosters, and Facebook, The Relationship Boosters.
The Relationship Boosters. Everybody can enjoy a little boost in their relationship at times. I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out thatanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.